Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
بعمل هذا الفيديو علشان ما يحصل أي سوء تفاهم. معكم محامية أسماء، محامية في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. أمس أعلنت في صفحتي الشخصية أنني تعينت كقاضي في ولاية ميسيسيبي، وهذا صحيح، بس علشان أوضح الأمر هذا ما راح يأثر خالص في مجالي كمحامية في مجال الهجرة في أنحاء الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. أنا بستمر كمحامية في مجال الهجرة في أنحاء أمريكا، بس بنفس الوقت بكون قاضية في ولاية ميسيسيبي، بس بكون مسؤولة على القضايا الجنائية، المخالفات والقضايا اللي تخص المديرية نفسها. فلا تخاف، عندي الحمد لله موظفين مهتمين في كل القضايا في المكتب، وكمان موظفين في المحكمة اللي مهتمين في القضايا المحكمة. فلأي إنسان خايف إنه راح يحصل تقصير لا تخاف، بالعكس يمكن راح يكون في اهتمام أكثر الآن، لأن الآن عندنا موظفين أكثر. فلأي إنسان خايف لا تخاف، الحمد لله الاثنين تحت السيطرة وأنا مسؤولة على الاثنين. فلأي إنسان خايف عنده سؤال ولا عاوز توضيح راسلونا وإحنا راح نرد عليكم. والحمد لله على ما أنتم عارفين التعامل في مكتبنا هو واحد من أهم الأشياء والشيء الذي دائما نهتم فيه. فلأي إنسان خايف لا تخاف، أنت في أيادي أمينة. وشكرا.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on World YouTube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, folks, you know who that was? Not speaking in English, wearing a hijab. And you heard the word Mississippi several times in those comments. That was the newest municipal judge, Ali, right here in Benoit, Mississippi, a town of about 400 folks up in the north central part of the state. In the Delta, a Sharia adhering Muslim as a judge in the United States of America, right here in Mississippi. And you know what? Independent reporters, everyday citizens, and elected officials who are speaking out against creeping Sharia are getting smeared by the media. They're getting smeared by some of these attorneys that are out there, and even some of our supposed allies. A Sharia adherent judge, hijab and all, was just appointed in that small town of Benoit, Mississippi. I cannot say it enough. And when people are reporting the facts, they're correcting the record or simply raise legitimate concerns, the Mississippi media and others, they don't investigate. They don't make sure they've got their facts together or they know what they're talking about. They attack, they dismiss, they belittle, they call it bigotry instead of vigilance. They call it religious hatred like was used against me. This is how creeping Sharia works, folks. Quiet appointments, cultural pressure, parallel systems taking root while the press looks the other way, or worse, enables it through willful ignorance. Well, joining us, we've got two guests today. Joining us first is Shannon Connor. She's an independent investigative journalist who helped break this story. She's been on the ground documenting this and taking the heat for routine, accurate reporting. And later we'll bring in Mississippi Ag Commissioner and gubernatorial candidate Andy Gibson, who says it takes courage and prayer to ban Sharia law in our state, the same way Texas is currently doing and Florida already has. And we'll play more clips. Clips of the media smears, the complicity, Andy's clear call to action, and patriots like Bridget Gabriel urging every American to speak up now before this becomes normalized and it's too late. This isn't about one judge in a town of a few hundred people. It's about whether Mississippi will defend the Constitution itself or let incompatible ideologies gain a foothold of violence, because that's what Islam and Sharia adherence requires to get and stay in place: violence. Shannon, welcome to the Rob Maness Show. And first of all, I want to say thank you for the work you and our friend Sippy Cup and Rare, RAIR, and Amy Meck did to break this story. We really appreciate you guys doing it.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Rob.
Well, I guess the first question I have for you is walk us through what you guys discovered in a short timeline and how you brought the story forward and what happened when you broke it.
Yeah, so my investigative partner and podcast co-host, he goes by Sippy Cup 2 on X, but his name's Patrick McVeigh. He actually lives in Mississippi. And so it was brought to his attention that there was a Facebook post made by this judge. Mm-hmm. And, at first, we didn't totally believe it. But then, started doing some research and, and she put out another post and it got kind of confirmed that way. So we decided that needed to be looked into. So Patrick is the one that did do the primary investigation on this, and I did secondary. So he first, he went in person to the attorney's office that Asma Ali, this municipal judge, runs. It's her immigration law office. So she is first and foremost an immigration attorney. And so, he went in there. The woman working at the desk told him no comment. So he decided, you know what? I'm going to contact the city of Benoit. So he called their city hall, asked for their meeting minutes over the phone. And then when they answered, asked why he wanted them. And he said, well, they're public record. And she said, basically, you're going to have to talk to the mayor about that, and hung up on him. So he drove, actually, the 2.5 hours to Benoit, find out that their city hall was closed. They're only open for about 6 hours a day, I think, something like that. They're only open 4 days a week. I think it's 8:30 to 1:30, 4 days a week. Wow. And so he drove around a little bit. They don't even have a police station in Benoit. There's nothing there. It's basically just empty. So on his way home, he sent me a text message. He's like, hey, can you look into the alderman and the mayor especially for this town? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, sure. That's kind of my specialty is, finding these backgrounds on people. Mm-hmm. So I was able to go through things and easily found all of the aldermen. The mayor was really hard to find. There's not really a whole lot of public information out about her. So I ended up having to scour her Facebook to find information to be able to actually find her. Mm. And so once I found her through her mother, actually, we started noticing that it's very strange because her only address on public record is a P.O. box in Benoit. That's the only Benoit address she has. It's the only address she has in Mississippi in general, just in publicly available information. So, once we kind of found that, like, okay, we definitely need to look further. And so, we had heard rumors that she didn't live in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. There was rumors that maybe she lived in Memphis, Tennessee. I was able to actually pull her voter file in Arkansas, which is where she has a homestead registered and is registered to vote. So, like, okay, that's interesting. And, the rumor was Memphis, Tennessee. Well, the part of Arkansas she's in is just right over the border from Memphis. So,
do we know if she voted in the last election in Arkansas?
We personally don't, because for the public record for voter file without doing an open records request, you can see if they cast a provisional ballot or if they did an absentee ballot. And so there's no record for either of those. So she would have had to have voted in person. Okay. So I definitely found that interesting. So the voter file for Mississippi, she's in there as Linda Lee Carter. Her name is Linda Michelle Carter. It's not Linda Lee Carter. And the record for that, because and Lee's her brother's middle name, not hers, which I found really interesting. But the address on file for that is the one that her son shares, but he also has a physical address in South Haven, Mississippi. But then that address actually connects back to a man with the last name Howard, who is related to two of the aldermen for Benoit. So it's this big web that's going on. And honestly, so much of this stuff comes back to two of these aldermen, which I found extremely interesting. And we did actually have someone that lives in Benoit actually responded to one of Zippy's posts and said that it was actually common knowledge that she doesn't live in Mississippi. It's just everybody knows that, but no one does anything about it. So it's been brought to the attention of the Mississippi Secretary of State, and he is actually working with the Arkansas Secretary of State to compare voter files right now. Because if she is truly not a citizen of Benoit, her election is invalid, which means her appointment of this judge is also invalid. And that's kind of what we're hoping is going to happen at this point.
Yeah, the Secretary of State's Michael Watson, I think I did see that he said that he was investigating it. Appreciate you guys doing that because, I mean, all we ask in America is just follow the rules. When the rules are presented to you, which are in election law, we should follow them. But I imagine that panic has set in the little town of Benoit amongst the mayor's office and the aldermen.
Oh, definitely, because they did release a statement earlier this week, I guess it was last week, about how there's no religious requirements for these appointments, and because their town's so small, they can actually appoint an attorney from anywhere in the state because of the size of their little village or whatever, the hamlet. So they legally they can appoint her, but is the person appointing legally in that position is the big question.
That's one of my questions is she practices in Ridgeland. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
Yes.
But she has practiced in Biloxi, or does she have offices in Biloxi too? Both of those
That
towns.
I'm not sure of.
And her background is what? She's an immigration lawyer?
She's an immigration attorney. That's her focus.
Does she specialize in anything interesting? Like asylum or...
It's really across the board. She does all immigration, and it's very pro immigration.
Yeah, well, it's a Democrat town. It's in this town is in Benny Thompson's district, congressional district. So it's controlled by Democrats. I'd be very surprised if there was even one Republican in office there. But they didn't get all the votes. I think the mayor didn't win with all the votes. Of the 400 the aldermen. So there must be some regular Americans there. Have you guys been able to talk to anybody besides the one post that responded to Sippy Cup?
We haven't. I know that he did reach back out to that person to try to get more information, but he has not been able to make another trip out to Benoit yet because he's actually in Texas right now getting ready for the next stage in the Carmelo Anthony trial. So I think that's going to be on the radar for when he returns.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember he's covering the Carmelo Anthony trial. I can't wait to see how that show works out. I'm glad we have somebody that will tell the truth. Well, Shannon, we got to take a commercial break. When we come back, I want to dive into what you guys as a team think about this coverage because and hopefully I've got the right video lined up this time to show a little bit of the media smears and those kind of things, what's happening, not just to you all, but to people like me that are saying, hey, wait a minute, you got to do something here. We'll be right back.
At a certain age, you stop chasing younger. You start protecting what helps you feel steady, strong, and well. Your body's collagen matters. It supports the structure of your skin, joints, and connective tissue. But as the years go by, your body needs more support from the inside. That's where Bella Grace Elixir comes in. Bella Grace Elixir combines Verisol collagen, the world's most clinically proven collagen, with Asteryl astaxanthin, and cat's claw in a proprietary blend designed to help support the processes that reconstruct collagen, while also offering antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. And this isn't just for women. It's for men and women who want to age with more confidence, more care, and a daily wellness routine that supports the body from within. One simple elixir, thoughtfully formulated for whole body wellness. Take care of the body that has carried you this far. Order Bella Grace Elixir today at melissahousebg.com.
A Mississippi town is firing back now after its new Muslim judge became the target of a national social media firestorm. Asma Ali was sworn in last week as a municipal judge in Benoit, but viral posts falsely questioned whether she would impose Islamic law. Ali says she'll follow the U.S. Constitution and state law. Now the ACLU is condemning what it calls anti-Muslim attacks. Benoit's mayor and its board all standing by Ali. They said she's a licensed Mississippi attorney, meets the legal requirements for the job, and her religion is not a lawful reason to remove her. Town leaders say it's pleased to have her, and they want to move forward.
Welcome back to the Rob Mena Show. It's Training Tuesday, and we are live on World YouTube and our X Spaces simulcast, and we are talking about how Mississippi independent reporters, citizens, elected officials are responding to this Sharia-adhering judge that was appointed there. You just heard that clip. That's typical coverage of the media where they only talk about the objections. They use incorrect terms like it's a religious issue. It's not. It's a Sharia law issue, which is supposed to be against the law in this state and this country. Obviously, our laws need to be beefed up just a little bit. But my guest right now is one of the independent investigative journalists, Shannon Connor, who has worked with Sippy Cup, who's from Mississippi, and Amy Meck of RAIR, or Rare Foundation, who is doing all of the reporting on this that's been deemed accurate anyway. And Shannon, one of the things that the media has tried to say is that, well, this was false reporting initially. I remember when the story broke, the first thing I saw was a Facebook post, but it wasn't from you guys. It was from another person who I know personally, David Michael Lynch, I believe. But it had her in there as being appointed by the town of Ridgeland, Mississippi, which in fact turned out to be an error, which was corrected along the way. And that's normal journalistic procedure, isn't it? When a fact gets out that's not correct, that gets corrected along the way, correct?
That we're putting out, the correct information. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, mistakes happen. And that's the thing with journalistic integrity, is making sure that, the correct information does get out there. No journalists or reporters want to actually have to submit a redaction, but we do on occasion. We try to avoid it as much as possible. But the fact that, we were able to, and that's really what made us kind of question the whole story to begin with, is because, Sippy, he looked into the Ridgeland and he just couldn't find anything. But that's why we kind of went with, this isn't true. That fact actually wasn't true. But once, more information came out, we were like, oh, okay, we're starting to figure it out now. And that's when really the investigation got started.
Yeah, the first post I shared on the subject was not DML's on Facebook. It was Amy Meck's from Rare Foundation. And I asked her later, I queried her and said, hey, is there any government documents and everything? And none of us could find any about Ridgeland itself. So your team made sure the correct information was put out there like you're supposed to do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are always focused on putting out the correct information the first time. That's
I'm just really curious of what do you all think? Maybe you've had a conversation about this on the team about the corporate media doing this, drumbeat of, well, initially there was disinformation, it was fake news because the town of Ridgeland was in there instead of Benoit. What do y'all think about that? I mean, because they still are pounding it.
I think that they're trying to cover their bases. They don't want the truth out there. I think the mainstream media is complicit in a lot of things that are going wrong with our country. And while they are correct that she cannot be removed on religion, there are other avenues to have her removed if she's not in that position legitimately, or if she's breaking the law. If the law is, you cannot have Sharia law, and she is enforcing Sharia law in her courtroom, then she's, violating her position. She's violating law, and she should be removed. But, it's one of those things that a lot of people go, oh, I'm just me. I can't do anything. The best I can do is vote. No, you can do so much more than that. Just voting is not enough. I mean, Sippy and I, we're independent. We're very small. We've only been doing this for about a year. And we're doing what we can. And if just, if it's not cut and dry on how they get removed, you start looking for those other avenues, because it's something that anybody can do. If you have a lawyer, a judge or a lawyer or anyone that is trying to enforce Sharia law in your city, your county, your state, you still can do something about it.
Yeah, one of the more troubling things to me, besides the media not really doing their homework, the corporate media doing their homework like you guys have done, the difference between a religious Muslim and a Sharia law adherent, and the difference is all the world. When you look at the Constitution of the United States, the First Amendment, the prohibition on religious tests. I'm not talking about a religious test. I'm talking about a legal test of Sharia law. And to me, my opinion is her wearing the hijab publicly is a sign that she's a Sharia adherent, and that rings alarm bells. And that's why I'm speaking up. Everybody should be speaking up if that's what they think, right?
I would absolutely agree with that. It's a big takeover, and that is a big thing with the Sharia adherent Muslim population, and in those countries and all that, is they're very focused on taking over everywhere, expand, and they're here, and we need to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you adhere to Sharia law, you follow that command, which is to make Islam supreme in lands where it currently is not. In our land is about 70% Christian, and under Sharia law, Christians either have to convert, pay the jizya tax, and publicly show submission to the superiority of Muslims, or leave if they're allowed to. And that's against the First Amendment of the United States. If somebody is practicing Sharia law in their mind, even, and they show visibly that they're doing it, what does that say to people that have to come into that courtroom?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a big problem across the country. I mean, so I don't live in Mississippi. I actually live in Washington State. And it wasn't that long ago that we had a case here where a husband and wife attempted an honor killing at their child's school because she refused to go and marry a much older man back in, I think it was Afghanistan. And they tried to kill her right there on school property, and neither of them got very big charges that ended up sticking to them. No, the mom didn't even serve any jail time. And that's a big problem, because it's not just judges of the Islamic faith that are causing these issues. We have sympathizers that are making it worse.
Yeah, and just regular Sharia law following citizens. Look, women are treated as slaves, basically, chattel slavery under Sharia law. And they don't have the same rights as they have under the United States Constitution. Christians will not have the same rights. No other religion will have the same rights. And what do you make of these attorneys defending this on the grounds of the First Amendment, when the fact that she's adherent to Sharia law is an affront to the First Amendment?
It's comparing apples and oranges, because it's a freedom of religion, sure, but that doesn't mean that those religious laws can be brought into play if those laws are being, they're against our American laws. You can't just decide, oh, well, because they're Muslim, because they're Islamic, their laws are totally okay too. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think that people are afraid? I mean, I mentioned religious bigotry smears. I've been smeared as a religious hater, I think was the words used by an attorney, no less, because I came out adamantly opposed to this. And look, I survived the Pentagon 9/11 attack, and I've been dealing with Islamist terrorism. I was about 9 personally, and then fought in the global war on terror like many others. And none of us agree that it's a good idea to have even one Sharia adherent judge or elected official in this country. But we're being smeared because of it. What do you guys say to your readers about that issue?
A big thing for me is, I always say that Islamophobia is a misnomer. Because a phobia is an irrational fear. There's nothing irrational about a fear of Islam taking over. Nothing irrational about it at all. Because we're, especially women, we are not safe if Islam truly takes over. And considering that Muslim families are outpacing Americans in the United States for births is scary.
Yeah, I mean, this dives very much deeper than just a municipal judge that's going to do traffic tickets and those kind of things. And those of us that have spoken out are being smeared by some that are supposed to be our allies, saying, "Hey, it's not a big deal. I don't see this judge being able to bring Sharia law across the state of Mississippi." But it goes deeper and wider. And much more further reaching than that, the possibilities of it, right? This is how the creeping starts, isn't it?
Absolutely. They start small. They're not going to get elected to major positions right away. They have to work their way from the bottom up until they're just so deep in the veins that it's just going to spread all the way to the heart.
So moving forward, you guys are continuing to monitor this story. I got a couple minutes with you left here, Shannon. What have you discovered in the last few days? And is there anything new that's going to come out?
At this point, our next step is to have another trip to Benoit, see if we can get in contact with any other citizens there. We're waiting to see kind of what happens with the Secretary of State with his end of the investigation. One of the big things for us is we do a lot of front end investigating. And then once it's in, the eyes or the hands of those that can truly do something about it, we kind of say, okay, time to move on to the next thing. Because we really don't want to get down in the weeds on everything, because we do try to do, more investigations. We did start with the DOJ ICE block, expose. That was kind of where we started. And, we've exposed the judge that had released was the last one to release the man who murdered Irina Zarutska. And, so that's really where our big focus is get the basics done so that we can hand it off to someone that can make that difference, so that we can continue to move on and make that difference.
Well, yeah, we appreciate you guys and everything you're doing. And we'll be following this story closely. And I'll let you know if I find out anything new and what's going on, because we're tracking on it too. And we're not going to be quiet about it. Where can folks find you on X?
I am Jinxed Reality X. That's my
right.
handle. And then Sippy is Sippy Cup, SIPPI, and then the number 2.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all very much. And thank Amy and the Rare Foundation for covering this story and bringing it to light. It's very important. Next up,
I'm very happy to do it.
Ag Commissioner Andy Gibson, who's a governor's candidate. We'll hear a clip from him, and then he's going to be joining the show to talk about banning Sharia law. We'll be right back on The Rob Maness Show.
Take a look at the water you just poured. It looks clean. It tastes fine. But what's really in it? Lead, fluoride, arsenic, chlorine, pesticides, PFAS forever chemicals, pharmaceutical residues, and bacteria. Every single day, these toxins flow straight from your tap into your glass, into your family.
It's time for Sentry H2O from Worldview Water. Sentry H2O is the ultimate water treatment technology, designed to remove harmful toxins, balance your water's pH, and enrich it with essential minerals like calcium and magnesium, the way nature intended. From commercial-scale systems to whole house filtration to crisp, delicious drinking water right at your kitchen sink and shower, Sentry H2O delivers cleaner, healthier water everywhere you need it. No plumber, no tools, no plumbing knowledge required. Perfect for homes, apartments, rentals, RVs, refrigerators, and more. Because everyone deserves access to clean, healthy water. Visit worldviewwater.net. That's worldviewwater.net.
Hey folks, I'm Andy Gibson, and I will ban Sharia law in Mississippi on day one of my administration as your next governor. It's a stand that takes courage, it's a stand that takes leadership, and I'm willing to take that stand. In fact, it's nothing new for me. I've taken it for a long time. Go back and look at my post, November 22nd, 2025. I put in there the top 10 things I'll do day one as your next governor. One of them is to ban Sharia law, and one of them is to ban China from owning even a fraction of an acre in the state of Mississippi. Real and present threats to our society, to our culture, have to be dealt with. I'm going to deal with them. I'm going to end the threat of Sharia law. I need your support. I need your prayers. Would you do that? Would you lift us up in prayer? And may God bless you. Working together, we're going to fight, and we are going to get this done, and we won't back down.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. And yes, we are talking about how the corporate media is smearing independent journalists that are covering the story about the Islamic judge in Benoit, Mississippi. And that man right there is my guest right now, Agricultural Commissioner of Mississippi, Andy Gibson. Commissioner Gibson is also a governor's candidate. That election will happen next year in 2027. Andy, thank you so much for giving us your time to come on and talk about this story. Why? I guess my first question is, you are one of, I think, two very strongly advocating for additional legislation to ban Sharia law. Why is it such a high priority for you?
Well, Rob, first of all, thank you for having me on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Okay, great. I just got back from D.C. I'm in my pickup truck, so good to be back with you. I want to say I don't believe there's a greater threat to our American way of life, our constitutional republic, than Sharia law. This is something that is not new. It's been around a long time. But what has been new is the rapidly increasing number of adherents to this radical Sharia law aspect of Islam. And they're moving to America. And you don't have to, you'd have to be living under a rock not to see what's been happening in Michigan and in America, in our own country, over in Texas, with thousands and thousands of these folks who are coming here. And, we have a principle in America of separation of church and state. That does not exist in Islam. And in Islam, if you understand it, if you do your actual research and know the facts, Islam is the state as far as these adherents are concerned. And so they have been successful infiltrating and overrunning vast portions of the European continent. I've traveled the world. I know you have, Rob, and I've seen this firsthand. Nations that used to be free countries, democracies where people had freedom, and now they have been placed under a veil of darkness that is Sharia law, and women's rights are being violated, children's rights are being violated, unspeakable acts, heinous crimes. It is the goal of this form of Islam to take over the world, and they've come to America, and we have to get ahead of this. And it's astounding to me. I will say this: I think there are more Mississippians who understand why this is important than they're not. But there's a lot of folks who don't get it. They don't see it, and they don't understand why, for example, Florida just passed a very strong ban of Sharia law. The Governor Ron DeSantis signed that into law in April. Texas is taking actions right now about this. And so the time is now. It's when you see a storm coming, Rob, you don't wait till it hits. You get ahead of it and you say, we're going to prepare now for what's coming and keep it from having the negative impact that it could. That's why I'm on top of this. I've been fighting for this for years, and it's simply time to act. And for those who don't believe it's an issue, frankly, they just have their head in the sand.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is that you and I both are, and a lot of other people, just concerned citizens that have the guts to speak out and call this out, are being smeared as bigots, religion haters, those kind of things. But when you understand the nature of Sharia law and that these folks are obligated to follow it, regardless of the oaths they take and those kind of things, if they're adherents to it. And you can tell with Judge Ali, she wears the hijab. That's an adherence visual sign that she adheres to Sharia law. Saeed, the guy, it's the Dem nominee for Senate in Michigan, openly said multiple times, I am obligated to follow Sharia law. And it does all the things that you just mentioned, sir. What do you say? And some of these people that are smearing us are supposed to be on our side of this. It just puzzles me why we're seeing that kind of reaction. Oh, man. We may have lost Commissioner Gibson. Have we got him back? Okay. We'll see if we can get the commissioner back. The question is, are people just not educated? What should we do about how to educate folks in a way that's professional? I'm not doing this to scare anybody. I'm doing it because I'm a supporter and defender of the Constitution of the United States, folks. And that is the absolute reason why I see others that are speaking out and stepping up. So it's very troubling for me to see some of the responses that we've gotten. But it's also a good sign when we see statewide officials, both in office and running for office, that have the courage to stand up and fight for what is right. And what is right is that the Constitution of the United States is the law, supreme law of the land, and the Constitution of Mississippi follows it. None of them require us to commit suicide as a culture and a nation. What they do require is that I, as a Christian, be allowed to worship as I please without fear of government interference. But Sharia law does not apply that way. It applies in the opposite. If you're a Christian or some other religious belief, under Sharia law, you're required to submit by paying a special tax and submitting publicly to it. I think we've got the commissioner back. Commissioner, can you hear me?
I got you. Yeah, something on the phone knocked me. Maybe somebody heard what we were talking about.
It could be. There's a lot of people, more people than I've anticipated, that are opposed to what we're talking about. And I was asking you before we lost your signal there, sir. Is I've been surprised that I expect to be called a religious bigot by some people on the left, but the media is using it. Attorneys in the state are using it, and things like that, and they're minimizing the fact that this is just a municipal judge, et cetera. What do you say to folks like that? Because it's okay to smear me, but I'm going to push back on people because it's not about religious bigotry. This is about Sharia law overcoming the Constitution to me.
Well, I believe that what you see when you hear people using that phraseology, it's nothing new to me. This is the same tactic that the left used in every effort of conservative principle that I've ever been involved on. For example, we passed the bill to defend traditional marriage, and I was called a bigot when I was in the legislature. We passed the law to defend the lives of the unborn, and I was called a radical, bigot for that. When we passed the law to crack down on illegal immigration. The same techniques, the same tactics were there. And frankly, it's the same group of people who are against banning Sharia law. For some strange reason, the left has sided with the Islamic Muslim sect, and they have decided to oppose this. Not only this, but a lot of other conservative principles that we've led on. So I'm not a bit surprised, but I do think this. I know this to be true. The truth will defeat a lie every time. And for these folks who are against this, if they will actually open up their history books and read the truth about what Sharia law is and understand we're not banning a religion here. We're not banning a freedom of faith here. We're talking about a system of law that is, in fact, held sacred by the Islamic religion. And it is not coming to America. It has come to America in many, many places, including Dearborn, Michigan, for one example. But even more concerning is what I've seen around the world, where it has taken over large tracts of land, cities, entire countries are being ruled under this form of law, which is incompatible with the American Constitution. If people get the facts, they'll know that's the way it is, and that is the way it is.
Yes, sir. Have we seen any sign of foreign funding or those kinds of things coming in to the state on behalf of these groups? I know the museum, and I think I've got a clip after this break here that will show, it talks a little bit about the museum. The museum in Jackson, the International Muslim Museum, I'm paraphrasing that now, has received about $1.7 million from foundations and those kinds of things. But has anybody looked at that yet?
It hasn't really been looked at yet, but it's something that I've called for as part of my plan. I rolled out a comprehensive plan similar to the Florida plan to not only expressly ban Sharia law, but to end the terrorist networks that are funding a lot of these efforts. This particular institution, they claim to be America's first Muslim museum, is housed in a facility that is public property in Jackson, Mississippi. So I wonder how much taxpayer money is involved here. And then they are getting funding, some from overseas and other endowments and funds, not to mention the fact that they have been vocal supporters of Hamas. And it's when you start peeling back the layers on some of these groups that have already come and gotten entrenched here in our state, you're going to find, follow the money and we will get to the bottom. So part of my plan is locate, find that funding. If it's foreign, if it's overseas, if it's funding radical Islam, we're going to cut it off and stop it and make sure no tax dollars are used for it. And it's everywhere. I mean, you see what happened in DFW. They tried to put foot washing stations up. Thank God, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is stopping it. But that sort of thing is happening in Mississippi, too. I've got a few examples I can go over.
Yeah, and Abbott's running. He's kind of running from behind, though, because there are actually built foot washing stations in the Houston airport. It's my understanding already. Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I use the term creeping Sharia in the title of the show, because that's how it works. Is it gets by people who, ordinarily with a common sense look at it, would go, "Hey, that's not right. This doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this?" Well, we got to take a commercial break real quick. We come back, we'll see another little clip, and then bring you back in. And I want to talk about the specifics of your plan.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed.
I am delighted to see more people speaking up and be courageous enough to say, I'm going to put my life on the line to speak up. Because someone like him, they are putting their life on the line. And remember, we grew up in societies where you don't criticize, where you don't speak up openly, because people can come take you in the middle of the night and kill you. So those, especially in Iran, people like Iranians who came here, who still have family there. Thankfully, I don't have any family left in Lebanon. But people are speaking up, and because their voices are getting louder and louder, because the more people speak up, the more platforms they have, the more voices you have. I remember when I started in 2002, I was the only person speaking out who comes from the Middle East, and nobody wanted to listen. But now people are starting to listen for two reasons. One, because we are watching these images on the streets of the West, whether in New York, whether in Houston, whether in Detroit, in Michigan, or anywhere, and people are becoming aware that there is a parallel legal system rising within our country. When it was happening in England, people didn't care. They said, oh, that's far. It's not going to happen here. So what, they have 85 Sharia courts operating in Britain parallel to British court. That doesn't affect us. Right now, they are operating in the United States, and that's why people are concerned.
Yeah, people are very, very concerned.
We're talking about creeping Sharia. That was Brigitte Gabriel from ACT UP, and my guest right now is Agricultural Commissioner of Mississippi, Andy Gibson, who's also a governor's candidate, and has come out strongly against Sharia law. Has always been, since I've known him, against Sharia law in our state and our country because he understands the dangers. But Andy, you've got a plan that we want to give you a chance to talk about some of the specifics of on how we need to do this, because some of the, let's say, the minimizers are saying, yeah, but we passed a law, no foreign laws. It was even called the Ban Sharia Law Act in the debates in the state legislature. But we've got to beef it up, right?
Yeah, I was in the state legislature when that law was passed back in 2015. And back then, this was so new, I'm not sure anybody had a real full understanding of the risk that was involved. So the weakness of that bill is it does not specifically mention the religious law of Sharia law. It could be interpreted, and has been, as simply our courts are not going to apply foreign countries' law in our courts, which frankly should be the case anyway. What we have to do now is beef that law up to say, we're not only are our courts not going to apply it, we're not going to recognize or allow this Sharia law in any form by any entity or any institution, because as Bridget just mentioned, what these folks are doing when they come and take over an area, they set up their own courts that are religious courts operating outside of our legal system altogether. That's another fact that the naysayers don't understand. If they had been to Europe like I have, if they have been to London and England like I have, and they've seen what's been going on, they would understand it. But that's just part of the efforts we have to take. Secondly, we have to step up enforcement. When we see the types of crimes that are committed against women, when we see mutilation, when we see child abuse that happens as a result of this form of Sharia law, we need to absolutely enforce the law against it and punish those who are doing it, irrespective of what they claim it to be as part of their religion. It is, as I said, incompatible with our system of American freedom and American constitutional law. And then we're going to uh, establish a new terror network investigative program under our Department of Public Safety to root out where these organizations are being funded from, in fact. Why are they sympathetic to groups like Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, which the leaders of this particular museum in Jackson are on record doing that? Where is their money coming from? And when we find it coming from those terrorist organizations, we're going to shut it down and stop it. And then we're going to ban the establishment of Sharia compounds. Many people are shocked to learn, and they seem surprised, but Texas just has had to deal with this with an Islamic group that was proposing an exclusively Islamic Sharia community where only Muslims could live and they could only sell their homes to fellow Muslims who were bound under Sharia law. We're going to stop that kind of development and ban it from happening here in Mississippi, as well as enforcing immigration. And when we find someone who is practicing this heinous law, deport them and get them out of this country once and for all. We will do that. We'll make it happen. Those are 5 points of my plan. There's a little bit more I could talk about, but you get the gist of it.
Yeah, I do. Now that you mention it, this judge was born here in America of Yemeni parents, though, that immigrated here, and it brings to my mind the birthright citizenship debate and why it is so dangerous to allow people to just immigrate here and have a child so they can anchor themselves to the United States and then bring their values in instead of assimilating. Can the state do anything to support the national government in that aspect from figuring out what we do with this birthright citizenship issue?
I think our state could pass a prohibition against birthright tourism to prohibit people just coming here for the sake of having children and getting around the other legal processes for immigration. There are lots of ways to come here legally that are open and understood, but this is a very bad way, a very bad process. And I appreciate what the president has tried to do. He's made a lot of efforts to block it at the federal level, but since the courts don't seem to want to back him up on that, we have to be willing to move at the state level. And I'll say this, this, as you mentioned before, this is no new position for me. But the new events, the recent events, have brought it to light. And I know that this particular judge, who is appointed as a municipal judge now in the middle of the Delta, which makes no sense to me, a town that by all indications is a dying town, that bears a lot of questioning. But she is an immigration attorney by trade. I mean, right. This she does. So the question is why? Why now? Why in the middle of the Delta? It just is strange to me. And again, I have nothing personal against this person. I have met her before. She attended Mississippi College years after I attended Mississippi College. So I've met her at an event or two, but I know nothing more about her except to say the whole situation is strange, and it does raise the issue. And I think if people look, they'll find that Islam is coming to Mississippi. It is already here. But the great danger is the Sharia law aspect of it that is coming and is already here.
Yeah, I did some research after I saw the story broke, and there are mosques all the way from, I live on the beach in Gulfport, so not far from my house is a mosque, but north to south, east to west, the entire state is covered. There aren't more than like 25, I don't think, but that's a lot for a state like ours. Our population numbers aren't that high. And those kind of things. I do. Before I let you go, though, sir, I want to ask you from a faith perspective, because I know I've seen you preach through song and witness the gospel as a Christian and everything. And I just wanted to ask you about the so-called faith leader press conference. If you saw it at that museum in Jackson last week, one of the individuals said, that was running it, she said, well, Sharia law is it's just like the 10 Commandments. We just want to be inclusive of everybody. And this woman is a Muslim convert, American, Muslim convert, I think from the 1970s, according to my research. But what's your perspective on comparing the Ten Commandments and Christianity and what we try to live by to Sharia law?
It's the exact opposite. You know, I'm a Christian. I'm thankful to be born again. I believe the Bible. I accept the teachings of the Old Testament, but especially the New Testament. And Jesus came, and he died on the cross, and he rose again that we might have eternal life. And he established his kingdom through his people, through faith and through love. And because God so loved the world, he gave his only son. Jesus died for us that we might live. Islam is the opposite of that. It is establishing a kingdom. They intend to establish a kingdom on this earth by killing those who do not agree with them. That is what Sharia law is. You can read the Quran, you can study it, and you'll find it to be true. And so while I, as a Christian, I love everybody, and I love every freedom that we have in America, especially our religious freedom, what is the case is we have to draw a line in the sand and say, you can practice your religion, you can practice your faith, but when you come to take our freedoms away, when you come to take away our country, we will not allow you to do that. You can be a Christian and love everybody and stand boldly against what is a clear and direct threat to our American way of life. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to continue to do. No matter how many times they ask me to take it back, I won't, because I'm taking the right position on this, and anyone who researches it will understand this is the right approach. So Florida's done it. Texas, I think 9 other states have done what I'm proposing. Mississippi can be the next, and I will lead us to get that done to protect our people and protect our American way of life.
You're absolutely right. One more question. And I just want to add to what you just said, though, is that as I've called before, Judge Ali, you are welcome in the community of Christianity. The Christ is the way, the truth, and the life to the Father, and you're welcome here if you want to convert to Christianity. But I wanted to ask you, you're an attorney, and I'm seeing attorneys, some that are professors in law school in the state of Mississippi, and they're trying to use a First Amendment argument about this and how I'm violating the Constitution and the First Amendment because I'm objecting to Sharia law adherence being allowed into our public life and making decisions about the law and those kind of things. But I see it as the exact opposite, is that the First Amendment's intended to protect the Christian, which is not protected under Sharia law.
That's right. We have a system that provides the free exercise of our religion, but it is clearly established precedent. And I've studied it as an attorney in constitutional law. You cannot just do whatever you want to do as a person of faith. You cannot infringe and take away the rights and freedoms of others. If someone says my religion wants me to kill all these people who don't accept my faith, you know what? You cannot do that in America. I'm sorry. That is illegal. It's immoral on top of that. And so it is incumbent on us to understand the difference between banning Sharia law and the free exercise of religion. We have to ban Sharia law to protect all the freedoms that we enjoy, from the First Amendment all the way through the rest of the Bill of Rights and our great Constitution, federal and state constitutions. But if we don't act, we'll wake up one day and we'll find, just like Texas has found, just like Florida has found, that there are those who do not believe what we believe, and their intent is to take over our society from the inside out. And that's what's happening. That's why Florida banned it recently, and that's why Mississippi needs to be the next to do it. And, you know, they don't have to wait till I'm governor to do it, but when I'm governor, I'm going to do it day number one.
Absolutely. I'm going to have Senator Michael McClendon on hopefully next week to talk about his plan, too, because I don't think he wants to wait either, sir. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Tell folks where they can find you guys so they can read more about what your policy positions are.
Yeah, well, my website is Andy Gibson. That's Gibson with a P, andygibson.com. You can follow me on all social media at just type in Gibson for governor. Again, Gibson with a P. And you'll find all my Facebook and X and all that social media content. So look forward to talking more about it. I'm sure it's not going away. but I won't be backing down either. So thanks, Rob, for having me. Thanks for covering this, and thank you for the principles that you stand on. I mean that. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you. I hope to get you on to talk about China buying land one of these days before this is all goes too far along. But we appreciate you, sir, and thank you for your courage. And I will be standing by, and not just standing by, but I'm actively supporting, pulling everybody together to fight this in our great state.
Me too. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. All right, folks. Tomorrow's Whistleblower Wednesday here on the Rob Maness Show on Worldview YouTube Network. I'll see you then.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome. Glad you are with us. We're going to be joined here in just one moment by Dr. Rob Lindsted. We're going to talk the Middle East. We're going to talk